Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today. Welcome to filmandtvreview.com. Catch the latest film, TV and streamed show reviews every week. The views and opinions expressed by the authors and those providing comments are theirs alone. They do not reflect the views, opinions or position of filmandtvreview.com or their respective parent companies or affiliates. Filmandtvreview.com makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, correctness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and is for entertainment purposes only. Episodes may contain adult humor and language. For full terms and conditions, see filmandtvreview.com.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Film and TV Review. Just a catch-up of what's been happening over the last couple of months, some titles that you might have seen, and I'm joined by my regulars, Richard, Alfonso, Andrew, and James. We'll be covering some of the shows and movies that came out. Amongst them, The Smashing Machine, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, Black Phone 2, Tron, Sisu, Road to Revenge, House of Dynamite, The Woman in Cabin 10, and Pluribus, which is a new show on Apple. Right, well, welcome everyone. We'll kick off with one of the earlier entries that came out earlier in a couple of months ago. Is The Smashing Machine. This is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson portraying a true story about the life and career of MMA fighter Mark Kerr, and it's a biopic. Draws heavily from a documentary on HBO that chronicled his struggles with painkiller addiction and his time in early mixed martial arts competition. I think Emily Blunt also appears as his long-suffering partner at the time. James, you saw this. Was it is Keen Bean? Very interesting biopic for a topic of a film?
No, is the answer. So yeah, this has been very, very heavily trailered for a long time, and I kind of like when they don't do multiple trailers and give everything away. But this, along with F1, must be the two trailers that I've seen the most this year, to the point that I can almost recite every line of the trailer. But it was A24, usually put out good films. Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt obviously reunited after the masterpiece that was Jungle Cruise on Disney Plus. And you'd be forgiven for thinking this is a sequel, but it isn't. It's a standalone film with the two actors playing opposite each other. Like you say, a story about MMA fighter Mark Kerr, sort of primarily, I think, in sort of the 90s, and sort of look at maybe early noughties, looking at his life. And it's got it's shot really well. It's sort of got this documentary style to it. I think Dwayne Johnson is really, really good in this film. I think he's fantastic, and it's him kind of losing some of his typical rock mannerisms. Obviously, he's a big physical presence, so not all of the mannerisms, but a lot of them are gone, as he takes on this role of Mark Kerr. Emily Blunt is absolutely fantastic as his partner Dawn. I think the issue is for me, and I have no idea what Richard's going to say about this. Who threw me for a second because his screen says Richie, and I thought I was joined by a completely different person. But Richard, you've said in the past not everybody needs a biopic, and I do appreciate that. But at the same time, history can't. It's not always written by the winners or the losers or the people that have had something absolutely tragic happen to them. I just felt the story was a bit nothing. Like, and I think if you know things about wrestling, there's a really good TV series by Vice TV about called The Dark Side of the Ring, and it kind of looks at some of the darkest stories of wrestling and things like that. And if you're familiar with some of those stories, this isn't that unusual. There's no sort of unique selling point to this. There was a point because I didn't know about Mark Kerr where something happens quite late in the drama, and I thought, oh, is it going to go into this horrible sort of space? You know, we had the Iron Claw, which was that really depressing but very very well done film that come out the year before with Zac Efron. And I thought, oh, is there a really tragic story about Mark Kerr that I didn't realize about? And you know, he's kind of a bit addicted to painkillers, stuff like that. He's not great towards his partner, stuff like that. But there's nothing out of the ordinary that made me think this is something that I really needed to see. And then it's a very minor spoiler, but at the end there is a caption sort of saying, "Now wrestlers and people are household names, but nobody knows this guy's name, and his name is Mark Kerr," or something like that. And you go, yeah, but this is in the 90s. This isn't even like if this was somebody in the 70s who was a wrestler or a fighter and they were big just before WWF, as it was, WWE, blew up and become this big mainstream thing. There would maybe be an angle for, oh, this is interesting to learn what come just before. But I mean, wrestling's huge in the 90s. And I know this is sort of like the underground equivalent. And there's some interesting stuff about them rolling back some of the rules and what's allowed. There's some it's bizarre some of the laws, the moves that are outlawed in the fighting, and some that are left in, which are like repeatedly elbowing your opponent in the head and sort of stuff like that. But yeah, it's fine. There's some really good needle drops in it, but I didn't feel that it had anything that interesting to say or that unique. Richard, you may have a different view.
No, there are things that actually I agree on with you. I mean, for me, this movie was made for Dwayne Johnson. We are in the season of the Oscar season has started, let's say, and it looks for me like a movie that was made for Dwayne Johnson to be nominated at the Oscars. Will he win? I don't think so. Well, because he does a great performance, but at least he wants to be considered as a serious actor. And to be fair, he does good. He does provide a good performance. He is the best part of this movie. It's true. I wasn't that impressed by Emily Blunt, to be honest, but that's where we disagree. But fair enough. Where I agree with you is that actually, yeah, I've seen many sports dramas in my life. I believe it's one of my favorite genres actually because, well, I think that actually you can have everything if you want to do a biopic or if you want to do a sports drama. Anyway, it's obviously you have to go beyond and beyond the limits what you set to yourself, and obviously at the end, if you have a happy ending, it's a great movie, etc. This one, I agree. It's like you don't have this kind of character development with at the end the satisfaction for the main character to say, "Wow, he achieved something great." You don't have that really. I don't think so. Anyway, you don't feel it. You have things like that in Rocky, obviously Rocky Saga, but also Southpaw with Jake Gyllenhaal. But I thought actually was amazing. It's very almost cliche story, but it works. I believe it works as a sports drama. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely lacking this part of this dramatic moment, let's say, that you kind of don't care about what's going to happen to the main character at some point, in my opinion. And also, I don't know if it's the same sport, but there was a movie almost 15 years ago with Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton called The Warrior. And I don't know if it's a kind of same sport. Is it MMA or whatever? I think Warrior was 10 times better than this movie, to be honest, because again, it is about this sport, but also it managed to have both the action scenes on the ring, etc., but also have something personal about the main characters that is very well portrayed by both Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton. And to have the story, actually, how it is written, to have them both fighting each other at the end, so it's a spoiler, but in a way fighting not only for the championship, but also to fix their own family issues. I think it was really well done. And Tom Hardy was a beast in this movie, to be honest. Here, you don't have all these things. The only storyline is the drug addiction, I guess, of Dwayne Johnson character. And that's kind of it, to be honest, because nothing else. I mean, the fame or that is destroying the couple, or I don't know. Even the character who plays the coach / best friend of Dwayne Johnson, you don't know much about him, instead actually that he is a good fighter, and that's it. So yeah, I think it's kind of poorly written, this movie. Let's face it. As I said, it's just an Oscar bait for Dwayne Johnson. I'm sorry to say that like that, but that's how I feel. Yeah.
Is his performance good enough just for the attention alone? That's
Yeah, because he is Dwayne Johnson.
I think actually that's a good point, Richard. I think if this was another actor, this movie wouldn't have got made.
Exactly.
I think off the back of the script wouldn't have been good enough to get it made. I think it got made because Dwayne Johnson said, "I really want to do this," and it is worth watching for his performance. I think it is well directed, but the script, is definitely the weakest part of it. But if it's truthful, then so be it. I mean, at least they didn't Bohemian Rhapsody it and just throw a load of random stuff in it and make lies about it, sort of make fabrications. So, but it doesn't really hold the attention, does it? I don't think.
Okay. Next, another almost biopic of sorts is Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. This chronicles the making of Bruce Springsteen's 1982 Nebraska album when he was a young magician, I guess, on the cusp of global fame. Another musical biopic, I guess, but an interesting one. James and Andrew, you saw this. James, what did you think? You music man.
Well, speaking of uninspiring biopics, let's not move on. So, about this. So the thing with this actually is a couple of years ago, it was around about the same time that the Beatles inspired movie Yesterday come out. There was a movie called Blinded by the Light, which was about a young British Asian man who was a big Bruce Springsteen fan, and the music sort of provided the backdrop to the movie, and it was kind of like a coming of age movie, and it was very funny and it was very dramatic, and that was a really great movie. But now, since Bohemian Rhapsody, everybody's got to have their own biopic, regardless of whether it's justified or not. Now, I would say Bruce Springsteen's quite an interesting character, and the music is great. I'm not like the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, but it is, he's got an interesting story, I suppose, but doesn't feel like it's really translated to this film. It does choose to hone in on this period that he's recorded already the demos for this album Nebraska, which is kind of not very radio friendly. It doesn't have any obvious radio hits to it. It's more downbeat, and it's kind of the wrestling of him wanting to get that out, but the record label not being interested, which is sort of a story we've seen a lot of times before in these biopics. So it's strange in a way that it chooses that period of his life to focus on. Having said that, there is probably something sort of valuable in the movie that it's kind of a men's mental health movie. And I feel I don't want to completely dismiss it because of that. I think that is a sort of valid thing that it's chosen to do. and it's quite bold that it's done that. But it really didn't hold my attention much in the same way that Smashing Machine did. I mean, I feel now I've got biopic fatigue more than I've got superhero fatigue. It just feels like it may be in the absence of people having good ideas for scripts, or just because people have seen the box office of things like Bohemian Rhapsody. They think, oh well, we'll get this out. It's got all the hits. In the case of this, not really. There's a lot of Bruce Springsteen. I'm not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, but there's a lot of Bruce Springsteen songs that aren't in this because it's focusing on Nebraska, which is this sort of very uncommercial sounding record. But if you're a fan of his, you might find something interesting in it. But it didn't float my boat.
Cool. And Andrew, quickly, was it worth another biopic? Was he worth the subject?
I'll try to. See, I went to see a showing of it as part of a film festival. This town, 50 miles or so, or I guess 70 kilometers outside of Washington, D.C., have this annual film festival. And they showed the film, and they had as a special guest this author, Warren Zanes. The movie is actually an adaptation of his nonfiction book called Deliver Me from Nowhere, written a couple years ago. So Warren Zanes was there in attendance to talk a little bit about, well, not so much the book, but sort of like adapting his book for the big screen, and his experiences talking to, in real life, talking to Bruce Springsteen, and how that worked and how that process worked. Anyway, so going to that type of event, you already get like a better appreciation for whatever the film is. Even if the film isn't that great, you still get an appreciation for that process, especially if there's like a guest there, someone who's worked on the film to some degree. Is it the definitive Bruce Springsteen film? No, not really, because it's and James already talked a lot about it. It's the story of how he put together this album, Nebraska, not the typical thing. Bruce Springsteen was kind of like on a tear, at least in the film's version of events. All these great albums, big radio-friendly hits, and he has some songs sort of like in the pipeline that sound more radio-friendly, and they were eventually used on Born in the USA. But for this album, it was sort of like, you want to do what now? And you just want to have these acoustic only versions, and songs that just kind of go on and ramble on. There's no clear chorus that people can kind of sing along to. So it's definitely a choice, but Springsteen kind of stuck to it. And I mean, it's what it is. It's that story. I kind of feel like they did a lot of different things in this film, and maybe if they just stuck to the whole focusing on Nebraska, putting together that album, it would have been fine. I think they kind of focused on some other things like his romantic life with this character played by Odessa Young. Wasn't an actual person specifically, but sort of a composite character, if that makes any sense. Like a couple of different women rather than a specific person. There's that, and then there's also his mental health issues, which again would have been interesting, maybe like its own thing. So I think also the expectations were there that maybe the film would be better than it was, talking about Oscars, because you have in the lead, you have Jeremy Allen White, who's kind of on a moment now because of The Bear. You have almost as a co-lead, Jeremy Strong playing Springsteen's I guess his manager, John Landau. Jeremy Strong's got a moment because of Succession, and he got nominated last year for The Apprentice, I believe. So both actors, and the other actors too in the film. I mean, Stephen Graham's in the film as the boss's father. And then Paul Walter Hauser's in it. It's good for what he does in this film. So a lot of really good people in the cast. So I guess the feeling is that the film maybe could have been better than it was, given the talent involved. It was directed by Scott Cooper, who's directed some acclaimed stuff. But I mean, I thought it was all right. But maybe that's just because I went to a special screening that, as I said, had the author of the book in attendance. So that maybe helped a little bit. So I think maybe the film might have been a little bit better if it was just more focused on the creation of the album, because that's like the strongest parts of the film is
Okay.
those moments.
Right. Okay. Next, a sequel to a not bad horror thriller back a few years ago, Black Phone 2. This is following the adventures of siblings Finny and Gwen and their friend as they attend a winter youth camp haunted by the ghostly presence of the Grabber, which was the antagonist of the previous movie. It kind of as they dig deeper into the camp's dark secrets and maybe the origins of the original killer, I think, which was basically more of a kind of like Ethan Hawke as a kind of more of a serial killer of sorts, but it kind of did blur the line between supernatural and a natural ghost story and dark kidnapping and so forth. But this is it's almost like done and dusted in the first movie, so I was wondering where direction this would go. But James, you saw Black Phone 2.
I did.
Is it yeah, so where did they go with this? And is it
So
intriguing enough?
I agreed with you. It's 2021. I thought it might have been pre-COVID, but yeah,
Mm,
that it sort of didn't really know anything about this movie. I think it was A24
yeah.
distributor. Went in to watch it with very average expectation. Was like, oh, that was okay. Not a classic, but it was sort of much
Mm,
better than I thought. Pretty solid. Ethan Hawke does a memorable turn as
yeah.
this guy keeping the character of Finney kind of captive, and
Captain.
it's got a very basic sort of premise, and like you
Yeah.
say, it goes into sort of supernatural and things a little bit. But it does feel like at the end of that, it is done and dusted. Um, this one, I think there are good things about it. So I think it's a much more uneven film, but I think the things that it's trying to do maybe it's mixed basically. So it's much more violent and graphic than the first one. I think. I mean, I can't really remember the first one being so graphic, and I think it's got an 18 certificate, the sequel over here, compared with the 15 for the original. Um, but basically, the grabber is coming back. Well, it sort of deals with Finney's PTSD essentially, which all good horror sequels do, don't they? Ever since Aliens, it's dealing with the PTSD. Um, but also the sister character who is in the previous film, but I can't remember. Madeline McGraw is the actress, and she is fantastic in this film. She is billed third behind Ethan Hawke and Mason Thames from the first film, but it's kind of her movie. She really sort of steps up and becomes the main protagonist in this, and she is having nightmarish dreams, very Freddy Krueger-esque as well, by the way. So
Mm,
when she goes to sleep, sort of she has these dreams of the grabber, and a lot of the dream sequences are done. They are apparently actually shot on 8mm film, so it looks really grainy and kind of very reminiscent of 70s sort of horrors and things like that. Um, and that stuff's quite effective. Also, they're out in the middle of nowhere in this really icy location, so you sort of start thinking of things like John Carpenter's The Thing and stuff like that. So it is quite effective in ways, but it does feel like it hasn't got that simplicity of the first film, where it had a very basic setup, which was this sort of Stephen King esque story of these kids are going missing, and then we follow one kid who is being held captive, and it's about him trying to get out. It feels like they're throwing a lot more stuff into the mix, and it doesn't always feel like it's the best blend, but it's perfectly serviceable as a sequel. I don't particularly need to see a Black Phone 3 unless they think of something amazingly new to do with it. But I thought it was competent enough.
mm. It does seem, like you say, Freddy Krueger. It does. It seemed like the setup for me, even looking at the trailers, like, are you trying to make a franchise now? Are you trying to make this the new, I don't know, Jeepers Creepers or new kind of horror franchise? I mean, but I think the beauty of the first one is that it was almost so a bit more subtle, as in, is it a ghost story? Is it the imaginations of a boy in kidnap who's trying to escape? It stayed very on the border of grounded, but here I don't know if it's going full spooky horror.
I mean,
Andrew,
I've seen people go, "Oh, this is a masterpiece." I think that's
oh.
definitely overstepping it. I do think with Madeline McGraw, if it wasn't for her, it might be I might have less to say about it. I think she's really good, and that kind of I don't really like the phrase torch pass, but sort of nominating a new character to be the antagonist, I think gives it a little bit of sort of fresh blood. But it's worth a watch, but I don't think it's as satisfying as a whole.
I guess, Andrew, what did you think? A road to nowhere on this one, or was it quite promising in any aspect of it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I too was kind of wondering where they were going to go with this story because the first film is an adaptation of a story by Joe Hill, who's a pretty famous author and the son of another author. But anyway, this is kind of like the sequel is kind of like a news story and not an adaptation. I don't think of anything from Joe Hill or anyone. So, um, and again, as James pointed out, Madeline McGraw, she's really the main character of this one. So, I mean, when I saw it, I thought, again, this is an advanced screening. It's free, so I thought it was all right. I liked a lot of what they did with it, with terms of fleshing out certain characters that maybe you didn't know as much about in the previous film, and doing justice by, uh, you know, like there's like a certain thing that's referenced in the first film, and you're sort of like, oh, okay, and then they do justice by that character in this film to kind of flesh out that story a little bit more and be like, oh, okay, this is what happened, without trying to spoil it too much. But I think overall, I wasn't too keen on it. More I think about it, because one of the main things with this film, a little bit of a setup. This is a period story. Like the previous film was set in the late 70s, this is in the early 80s. And there's a lot of allusions to stuff that happened decades earlier in the 1950s. And it all ties into this one location. And I thought, well, isn't that convenient that everything just kind of happens to lead to this one location? That's kind of an interesting coincidence. You know, maybe if they had more of an explanation for it, like why everything just happens to lead to this one location, this one camp where everything takes place, but just kind of, you know, why does it work out that way? So, I mean, it did have its moments. I thought Madeline McGraw did a decent job. Her sister is in the Megan films. I guess Violet McGraw. So, you know, hopefully see more from Madeline McGraw at least. And Mason Thames, he's still a main character, but not the main character this time around. He seems to be having a pretty busy year. He was in the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, and I guess he's also in Regretting You. So he's having quite a year, I guess. So, but yeah, I mean, I thought the film was okay when I saw it, but the more I think about it, the more it's like kind of eh. I just feel like it could have just stopped with the first film, which again was just an adaptation of that story. So this is just, I guess, more of just trying to expand and maybe see if they can get a franchise out of it, which maybe they will. So at this point,
I hope not. It seems like
not up to us. So
yeah, like a Crystal Lake team up with Jason and even Megan and A24's franchise of monsters. It does seem a bit almost desperate, I hope, but or you know, quite honestly. But anyway, we'll hopefully pray it doesn't happen. Anyway, as we're in sequel territory, another film landed our way, which was the eagerly awaited question mark a legacy of Tron is Tron Ares. Here we're back to the grid, but which is okay. Well, the premise of Tron, obviously, back in 1982, it's the early kind of a Disney visually arresting movie with Jeff Daniels back in the day of AI programs and our interaction with them. Here it's we moved on since I think the previous movie, which was Tron Legacy a few years back. Here the highly advanced program AI or Ares is kind of like custom made by a big company to for military applications. Here, they seem to be like digitally printing out the soldiers from the grids or from that AI mainframe and how they interact and escape into the real world with hilarious consequences. I guess it tries to. The blurb apparently would have you believe this is a commentary on AI. It's as Ares, Jared Leto, franchise killer himself, navigates the physical world and becomes entangled in a power struggles of company, politics, and identity. That's basically it. Basically, it's a. So I did actually go see this with my cousin and two other random people in a full theater. Well, not a full theater, an empty theater with four people. I must say though, it is visually great looking. A soundtrack by Nine Inch Nails, or certainly members of that band. It 3D. Even saw it in 3D, and it was actually done well. I can't actually say there was anything really bad about this film. It was enjoyable. It was a visual feast, certainly, and a good experience, which is probably what I can expect from a cinema visit nowadays, if nothing else. So after seeing it, I turned to my cousin and said, I don't think anyone's going to believe that this was actually a good film because no one would have seen it and no one would believe us. But I'm going to ask, let's see, Richard and James, are you with me? Were you enraptured by the grid and Jared Leto? Is this a
Uh,
rebirth of the franchise again?
so first of all, you said a few years back for the second installment. That's
Tron Legacy,
15 years already. So
yeah.
yeah.
Which is nothing. Surely
Uh,
nothing as if we're in the now you see
well,
me don't
by the way, I'm
franchise.
gonna say that I said before, I think Tron Legacy is the one of the most underrated movie of the 21st century. Because I
Hmm.
believe actually it was a very well done movie.
Mm.
Not because of the plot, but I think it's
Yeah.
a great, one of the best cinema experience I ever had, to be honest. Um, Now, yeah, I mean, Tron Ares is I don't know. I don't think actually it's better than Tron Legacy, which is saying something because Tron Legacy was a box office failure, kind of. At least in Tron Legacy, everybody was talking about the visuals and the soundtrack back in the day. At least the plot kind of makes sense because they were using actually things from the Tron first movie, and also there was an animated series back in the day that was decent, and there was also a video game. They kind of connected all these things back in 2010. Tron Ares, it's not that the plot doesn't make sense. It's just actually that the plot is just so predictable. After 5 minutes, you know where this is going. We've
Mhm.
seen a thousand and a thousand and a thousand times now in sci-fi books or TV shows or movies the idea of an AI who wants to become human and who starts actually have emotions and thinks self-conscious and things like that. All these things are so 80s or so 90s. So releasing a movie like this in 2025, I mean, okay, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna attract, let's say, people to see a movie if you don't provide anything new. And if the plot is again predictable and the visuals are not, for me, are not more amazing than they were 15 years ago, then you don't have much to offer. And I think that's the problem with Tron Ares. I don't think the visuals they are good. Yeah, it's a good 3D popcorn stuff, but and I'm saying that Avatar is better, for example, as a 3D stuff. So yeah, the plot is boring, and the fact that it's completely disconnected to Tron Legacy, that pisses me off so much. There was actually a nice setup for something at the end of Tron Legacy, but Disney failed to capitalize on this for a decade before giving a chance to Jared Leto. I mean, I'm sorry, I got nothing against this guy personally. I don't know him personally, but this guy is a franchise killer. I mean, look at his CV. I mean, why would you give 150 million movie to Jared Leto as a main guy? That's crazy.
Richard, he does the jobs other actors don't want to do or other people don't want to do. He was basically going to be in the first hour of this podcast.
What job? Losing money for studios? I mean, look at Tron Ares. I mean, I was looking at the numbers what Jason was talking. That movie cost 220 million apparently. They're going to lose a fortune. They're going to lose perhaps 100 or 200 million out of this movie. So come on.
I think every time, I mean, like even the original one lost money, I mean, 82, but I think there was a lot riding on Tron Legacy because it was, I think they were consciously pushing this to be the big franchise. That didn't work out. This one also, I think a long gestation in this as well.
Tron Legacy didn't make much money.
No.
Even almost zero, but I think he broke even at least. Tron didn't break even at all.
No, I don't know. And I think, yeah, you're right. The story, I don't think it has anything truly new to say about our relationship with AI right now because we're kind of gone past that point and we are at that point where we are living it right now. So besides being, it did the job as in it was a very good cinema event. I mean, visually, as in an experience. As a story, maybe I wasn't expecting much out of it, but it's a shame because when you've got all that going on in the other, a great soundtrack, great visuals, and, a very enjoyable, as in a cinema experience, it like almost like 4D, I would say. It is, when you don't have much weight behind it, I think it's difficult. So, James, I mean, what can you add to this? What do you think?
Well,
what do you like about it first?
I was going to say some other stuff, but what you've just said there is interesting actually because I've seen the first hour of this film twice, and I can't really tell you what happened in it. Okay, so I watched the first half and then walked out, but I agree with you. At the time, I kind of enjoyed it. So actually, to full disclosure, the reason I left halfway through is because, well, actually, I was going to try and come and see Jason in person, and I failed to get the train.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have my car, so I was like, if I leave now, I can come back and watch this another time. So I've seen the first half of it twice. I didn't walk out because I was offended by it or I thought it was terrible. but I enjoyed it at the time, but I have no real recollection of it now.
Yeah.
I remember kind of liking it. Whereas I would say with Wicked for Good, which I saw last night, Richard, and we were talking about a little bit on the chat last night. When I woke up this morning, I was still thinking about it because it's doing some really dark emotional stuff, and it's got some interesting political stuff even, which is bizarre to think that it's in there, but it is. And you're kind of thinking about those. I'm kind of thinking about those things this morning. But I mean, with Tron, it's an audio visual experience, and then you're out of it. I mean, I think the thing with Tron Legacy, which I haven't seen, but the thing that I think resonates and gets remembered about that film is the Daft Punk soundtrack, because Daft Punk hadn't done a lot just prior to that. They've been away for a bit, and then they've sort of come back since. With this, the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack is fantastic. The track "As Alive as You Need Me to Be," which I was listening to earlier, is a fantastic record. I mean, they are still channeling basically what they did on the Challengers soundtrack last year. And I don't know if that song is better than Compress Repress, which was the big song from Challengers. It's definitely in the same ballpark. And I I think, yeah, what Richard said, it's kind of just treading the same ground that we've seen a lot of times before. There's also the thing that when we meet Ares, we don't really have anything to sort of connect with him emotionally and to sympathize with him. Big spoiler for Companion, but in Companion, we sympathize with Iris, and obviously here comes the R word with RoboCop. We meet Alex Murphy, and then we kind of sympathize with him in both versions of that film. And then we kind of know what his journey is becoming the robot. I mean, I like the fact that they picked Pesh Mode as the band that he really liked, and it kind of fits because I thought there's a bit where he's just gonna go, I like 80s music, and the fact that they hone in on a very specific thing, I thought was good. But I mean, that's a very minor point in a two hour movie. I didn't think there was anything particularly wrong with it, but I didn't think there was anything particularly right with it. Was my feeling, and it's kind of odd that they've. I mean, maybe it's just we're still in this period where this isn't the only film to have lost a lot of money this year. We are still in this period. It feels of things being greenlit because studios are desperate for those end game dollars, which is like over half a decade ago now, and people are going to have to learn that isn't a thing anymore. And they probably just looked at it and said, "Hey, it's 80s. People like the 80s. Should we try this again?" But I think now, after 3 attempts, none of which have really been successful. I don't think Tron was really successful back in the day, was it?
No, he wasn't.
No,
But
I think it's done now. But there's 3 films you can go back and revisit them. Soon to all be on Disney Plus.
Little point that I forgot. By the way, in this movie, for half an hour I tried to remember who was the main actress. Actually, she's from Past Lives. The female actress is from Past Lives, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, okay. No, doesn't help saving the movie, but just saying that she was amazing in that Past Life. The movie was amazing.
I was trying to Google it. The Blu-ray sat right behind me.
Totally.
3D printed it. Alrighty. Okay.
Greta Lee.
Greta Lee. Yes, fine. Okay. Wow. All right. Right. Another sequel. Here is our next title, and that's Sisu Road to Revenge. I think the original one was is it a Norwegian or is it Scandinavian? Kind of like almost a historical World War II John Wick kind of like cross. Very over the top, but very enjoyable and strangely satisfying one man against, I guess, the German army, I guess, back in the day. Here we join our protagonist, I think Atta Kopi, having survived the great trauma, decides to rebuild his home elsewhere, but his past comes to haunt him as a man responsible for his family's death in the first one, intent on finishing the job. So once more, Corpy must fight his way against a relentless enemy. I think the plots usually are kind of like speak for themselves. So it's always over the top fun with this. I haven't seen it. I'm kind of like, I guess on my list. Will I be disappointed? James, Andrew?
Well, what I like about your introduction, Jason, is that it had more words in than the entire 2 films put together.
Yes, it's pretty true.
So Sisu is a movie that I think someone recommended it to me. Someone did recommend it to me, and I watched it on streaming a couple of years, maybe a year ago or 2.
Yeah.
I thought this is fantastic. So basically it's 90 minutes. It's a guy I think seeking some buried treasure and fighting the Nazis in. I mean, the John Wick comparison is very good. The first John Wick movie is a good example of where this is. Not the later ones where there's endless exposition as we try and set up a shared universe. It's just fighting Nazis and Nazis blowing up in very brutal ways. This one is him trying to avenge the death of his family. And it's pretty much more of the same. So you've got these, both films are divided into chapters. I think it's like about 6 or 7 chapters that come up on the screen. and you go through these various sequences. I think it's the third one sort of reminded me of Fury Road a little bit, or a Mad Max film, any of the Mad Max films, for really, where it's sort of like this, not the fastest car chase, but there's a lot of people getting picked off. There's a sequence in this as well where this is literally the noise I made, right? When something happened, I went, oh, like that, like really loudly at the cinema, because I kind of reacted like I'd really seen someone get hit by a car. It feels that brutal. And there is that element of the violence being played as comedy. It's almost like slapsticky. So it's very gory, but it's very, very sort of quick, and it's very easy to follow. Like,
Yeah.
you know who the goodies are, you know who the baddies are. There is some dialogue. There's English dialogue in it, but there isn't much of it. But you don't need that, really. You understand what the stakes are. I'm not sure about the first one. This is a 15 certificate in the UK, and it is one of those movies where you go, I genuinely don't know what more they could do to get an 18 certificate. I understand that a lot of the people that get picked off, it's sort of it's almost comic book style in the violence. And when I say comic book, I mean like 2000 AD. But there is a very nasty extended torture sequence in this, which is relevant to the plot. But you do go, really, this is all containable at 15. Okay, fine. I had a really good time. So I mean, I don't know if it needed a sequel, but if you're going to do a sequel and it's under 90 minutes, in and out, very entertaining.
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff.
Awesome. Okay. Andrew, you saw this, I guess, more of the same, but entertaining, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So basically, this, as you said, it's a sequel. So that brings up a little piece of trivia, is that if someone asks you what sequel is coming out now that features Stephen Lang as a villain, say this movie. So the sequel that's coming out now, Stephen Lang as a villain. Don't know what other film that could apply to, but anyway, so both this and the previous film, Sisu, are directed by Jalmari Helander, a Finnish filmmaker. He also directed, since we're getting to the Christmas time of year, he also directed Rare Exports, which is that's another different type of Christmas movie. But anyway, as far as this film goes, Road to Revenge, yes, I see it. So it's set after the Second World War, whereas the previous film, the Nazis were the villains. Here it's set at the beginning of what would be considered the Cold War. And so what has happened is, as part of the end of the Second World War, part of the Finnish territory was ceded to the Soviet Union, Karelia. And of course, that happens to be the area that the protagonist happens to be from, Atami. So what kicks off the plot in this one, such as you can call it a plot, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not really a film that is deep on exposition. It's just the character he crosses the border into what used to be Finland and is now part of the USSR, goes to where his home was, gathers some things, and you know a little bit about his backstory from the previous film. His family was killed by the Soviets. I guess it was during the Winter War or something, some fighting with the Soviets. So he's gathered some things from what's now part of the USSR, and he wants to rebuild his home in what's now considered Finland. But because he crossed over the border, it attracts the attention of the Soviets. And so they try to get his nemesis, you could say, this person played by Stephen Lang, who had killed Atami's family, his wife and two young sons. And so they ask this villain, or Stephen Lang's character, to put together a team to go after Atami. And so that's basically what happens is, you know, the villains go after Tommy, and he basically picks them off. And so you have the fighting with, he's driving a lorry, and there's cars chasing him. You have planes chasing him. You have scenes in the water. There's a really cool scene with a tank. If you've seen it, you know that. And then there's a scene on the train. And there's even a scene that, for whatever reason, late in the film that seems to remind me of Jaws for some reason, but instead of a shark, it involves a missile.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does kind of. So very strange, but it does. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's an action film. A lot of cool fighting, a lot of cool explosions, that kind of stuff. A lot of this cool action scenes, but well done. I mean, it's not like badly done. I mean, it just and you kind of feel for the protagonist. You know, everything that he's gone through. Him and his dog. He has a dog again in this one. So, yeah, I mean, it's not complex. It's not much more I can say about the film, but it's entertaining. I don't think it's something that's probably going to go into like a wide release just because of the Finland connection, even though most of the dialogue, and I'm talking about English speaking countries, most of the dialogue is in English. The characters that do speak mostly speak in English. The protagonist doesn't really speak, but the times you've heard him speak in the franchise, it's in Finnish, but that doesn't really matter. So it's not really about dialogue. It's just about, you know, what cool action scenes, what's going to happen. The film's divided up into chapters. I think that was mentioned a little bit before. And I think that was true of the previous film. So, yeah, it's entertaining. You know, if you like the first film, it's, you know, it's more of the same, but that's in a good way. So.
Okay, thanks. Right, next in the action tier, it's Catherine Bigelow back on the action scene as directing A House of Dynamite. I think it's Netflix, I think so, but it's a thriller about I think a missile attack on the US. Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Gabrielle Basso. It's a I'm guessing she's always a shorthand, Catherine Bigelow. It's you saw this. Richard, you saw this. Is this an enjoyable thriller? Because she's pretty she's good and adds usually a bit more cerebral dimension to those kind of films. But was this good? It's kind of come and gone, I think, already. But
Yeah, it has it was supposed to be a big deal for Netflix to actually to release this movie, but I don't know if many people watched it in the end. But um, I think that unfortunately the trailer, if I can call it this way, might have told a different story from what it is really. People, when I talk about, but I said I watched the new Catherine Bigelow movie, etc. People say, "Oh yeah, it's an action thriller movie about trying to stop a terrorist attack on the United States," and people think like it's like a Gerard Butler movie or or a Jack Bauer movie or whatever, and it's none of that at all, and that's unfortunate because I think it's much more interesting than just a Gerard Butler movie where you have to stop a nuclear attack on U.S. Soil. Catherine Bigelow, House of Dynamite is literally it's like a 2-hour movie divided in 3 or 4 different parts, and it's different points of views of yes, okay. So yes, there is actually a nuclear threat. There is to some of the first 5 minutes. There is a nuclear missile that appears on the radar in the US. They don't know where it comes from, but in the next 20 minutes, it will reach probably one of the American big cities, and that's kind of the synopsis of the story. But then you have, I said, different point of views, and you have different levels of the US army or government or whatever, and how they respond to this. And that's what the movie is about. Is literally but different points of views and different opinions, literally, of how to address a threat like this in such a short period of time. And that's why it's so interesting. You have Rebecca Ferguson, who is, I'm guessing, some kind of counter-terrorist agencies or whatever level. You have Jared Harris, who is, I think, is like the Minister of Defense or the head of Pentagon or whatever. You have this young actor, he is from another TV show, I don't remember the name, who is from NSA. And you have Idris Elba, the President of the United States. And as I said, from one segment to another, you relive the 20 minutes-ish, not a real time, not like a 24 with Jack Bauer. It's not like every second is every second, but you kind of relive these 20 minutes with, again, a new level of the government, from the counteragency to counter-terrorist agency, sorry, and then the Pentagon guy, and then all the way with I think it was the final act with the President of the United States. Why? Because all the way, so it's not a spoiler because that's how it works, all the way to the President, because he is the one actually who has to decide whether or not you counterattack or you don't counterattack, or when you find out what is the city is going to be targeted, what you're going to do about the people in that city, etc. So it's more about, let's say, a West Wing TV show when there is a nuclear threat, if you want. So it's definitely not action. It's more talk and talk and talk with different opinions. And it's kind of stressful, obviously. And I will avoid any spoilers. The ending is extremely divisive online, because the ending is for me, it's a very good ending, but people hate the ending of this movie. So it's interesting to watch and to make your own opinion.
Okay. And Andrew, you saw this as well.
Right.
Is it does it punch above its weight? Really? Can this usually, it's Catherine Bigelow, like I said, and it seems a bit more thought behind it than you usually get in this fare. You agree?
Yeah, I think it's and I should set it up, but it's kind of like a thriller mixed with the drama. Like, you focus on a lot of these different individuals at different levels of government and the military in different countries. So, and you go into their little stories and their lives, and because of the way the story is told, you have them going about their lives and their plans for the future, and then stuff kind of happens, and that kind of is what gives it that kind of punch. I think where the divisiveness comes from is that you have like the sections, and the first section is really, most people pretty much agree the first section is really, really good. And then you just have these other sections which just kind of show you things, but from different vantage points and different kind of, okay, these are the people here and this is what's going on here. And this becomes, I guess, for lack of a better word, repetitive. So people are kind of like, I guess they kind of want something more definitive. I mean, I think it's kind of clear to me, at least, what kind of happens in the film. But I guess to some people, I guess they want something more, I guess, straightforward and not like, okay, well, what do you think happens? Or, ambiguity. I mean, I guess, especially because the first part, pretty much everyone agrees is really strong. And then as they get to the other parts, it becomes more divisive in terms of people's opinions. That being said, there is one part late in the film that people really appreciate. It's kind of like, okay, the seriousness of what's going on. But I mean, I generally liked it, but I can understand why some people might not like it. I just knew going in, by the time I watched it, that it was going to be something divisive. I couldn't really understand that, but after watching it, I could kind of see like, okay, I get why some people might not like it, because they kind of want, a certain story that's more told a certain way, and this isn't that type of film. As I said, it's clear to me kind of what happens. And also there's stuff that certain sounds during the credits that aren't necessarily part of the story, but some people might think they are. I think Catherine Bigelow said they're not, but if you sit during the credits, and you're kind of like, okay. But yeah, I mean, it's more like it kind of leaves things more to the viewers what kind of happens, and that's kind of the way it is. The idea of nuclear proliferation and what kind of happens in this scenario, and you think like, okay, the Cold War is over, things are okay, and that's not necessarily the case. I'm not going to go into the current political thing in the U.S. because that's like a whole other thing. I mean, you watch this film and you think like, okay, this is how Idris Elba plays the president of the U.S. and behaves in a more certain way that you kind of like, okay, is that how things would be now? But that's a whole other story. So as I said, I like the film, but again, I can kind of understand how some people might be more, I guess, frustrated by it. So,
Okay, fine. And that's Netflix, isn't it?
it's on Netflix, yeah.
Cool. Right. Next. Wow. So next, another feature. It's The Woman in Cabin 10. Now I'm going to read this out because it sounds so exciting. On the lavish yacht for an assignment, a journalist sees a passenger go overboard. But when no one believes her, she risks her life to uncover the truth. And that's Keira Knightley. That sounds such a vanilla sandwich of a mystery. Who saw this and why did you see it? That's Richard and Alfonso.
I didn't see it because I genuinely, when I wrote this in the chat, I thought you said The Woman in the Cabin 10. And I thought it was the 10th film.
I'm guessing Richard.
I've not seen.
Richard saw this and Alfonso?
Yeah, Alfonso saw it as well.
Alfonso, yes, you too. Is it as exciting as the premise suggests?
It's not as exciting as the previous 9 films, but it is. No, it's how can I say it? I have read the novel. And it moves very fast. It is entertaining. It kind of derails the train in the end of the plot. The differences with the novel is that in this case it has really tried to make it more cinematic and more exciting. And well, I don't know, the reviews haven't been kind with this one, but I think it's, let's say, entertaining for the viewer for like an hour and a half. The mystery is just, as you said, there's Keira Knightley is a reporter that goes in this cruise through the fjords in, I guess, the Scandinavia. And suddenly during the first night, she hears something like a splash. She goes out to her balcony and on her cabin, and sees a woman drowning in the sea. And so she calls everyone. There's a woman drowning. That woman has drowned. And apparently there was nobody in the cabin next to her where that woman should have been. So that's the main mystery. There was never a woman. Everybody is on board. There was that woman never was there. So that's that kind of Agatha Christie kind of mystery. It's interesting because it doesn't go the full film. At some point, it is resolved, and they kind of dare to go to some extremes to let's say, in the book it is easier to let's say, how can I say it? Well, I may not say more because I may be saying too much, but well, yeah, like I said, it is entertaining. and just in the end, just because they want to give Keira Knightley more like more action scenes, and more like being the star that resolves everything with an action style, and just goes and says, here it is, everything, and I'm gonna solve this, and everybody that it's guilty is gonna go to prison, and whatever. So it doesn't they try to do it better than the book, but in the end I think it's not so plausible, I guess. Yeah,
Richard.
but it's good. I mean, it's good enough.
Okay, Richard, you can sell it to me as strong as Alfonso did. Well, thanks, Richard.
I think it's summed it up. It is supposed to be an Agatha Christie stuff, etc. Yes. And it's true that for the first half of the movie, let's say, you are, no pun intended, on board. It's on the boat. But yeah, it's true that, yeah, I don't know. I should read the book, because it's true that the last 15, 20 minutes, I mean, Keira Knightley is just a random person. She's just a random journalist. And the fact that sorry, no, I shouldn't say that word. I was about to say something. The fact that what happens to her, etc., I think it's too much. Yeah. The mystery is, well, let's say, hidden. I didn't see the main twist coming, as I said, in the last 20 minutes. I didn't see it coming, to be fair. So
Okay.
I'm not done for that. Obviously, when you have a murder mystery, you want to be surprised. I was surprised. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of these movies that comes and goes. I mean, not actually, but I've seen better murder mystery, I'm thinking, in my life. So yeah, nothing much to add, to be honest.
Okay. Right. Intriguing question mark. Right. Lastly, from Apple TV, brand new series. With I think one of the writers or showrunners, Vince Gilligan, who worked on X-Files back in the day. So heard a lot about this, actually, and to actually watch this, recommended. That's Pluribus, I think that's how you pronounce it. This is very much a science fiction series, a post-apocalyptic world where an alien virus is transmitted and then grown in a lab, where it then spreads via an infection, where the aliens kind of like adopt a hive mind across the globe. However, the only person not affected is a novelist, Carol Sturcker, who writes a lot of romantic beam novels and seems to hate it. She wakes up in this strange new society and confronts this outbreak and what her place is in the world. I saw episode 1 of this. Seemed intriguing. Alfonso, you saw this. I assume a few more episodes. Was it intriguing enough for you to continue? Where are you up to on this? Episode 4, 3, I think.
I think more or less, yeah. I am following it week by week. It is very, very original. The new series from the Breaking Bad creator, and it's like it's really an original. Let's say maybe not the first like premise of an alien. Let's say it's a alien virus invasion, but the way that it develops and how this virus makes everyone have a just one mind in all the bodies of humanity, except for a few people that haven't been
just converted, I guess.
Converted, yeah. They didn't get the contagion of the virus, so yeah, this woman, the main the protagonist, she was already quite jaded,
Yeah.
jaded writer,
Hmm.
without having to go through the whole humanity being another entity without her, and she did, and that kind of entity is like almost like kind, just trying to get her to be as well as possible until they figure out the way to make her be also one of them.
Hmm.
And until then, because they truly, truly, truly believe that it is the best, that it can happen to anyone, to be just part of one, only the same entity, the same mind, and be all in unison and like doing the same thing, thinking the same thing, all the minds together, connected, whatever. And she doesn't buy it for a second. She's like, you guys are trying to invade the whole earth. You're not human. You're like the worst. And they're like, but please let us, we just want the best for you until we get the solution of how to transform your mind into one of us.
Hmm.
And that's the comedy of it. Like,
Yeah.
I think it just goes to many places. See, because they please her in every way, and you just don't know where it's gonna go next. So that's very interesting for a series, that everything that happens seems kind of original, and at the same time you don't know where it's going. Well, yeah, of course you don't know where it's going, because it's kind of, it doesn't feel like doesn't feel like horror. It feels sad, like comedy, sad and unexpected.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it does seem quite intriguing. Not the old conventional big War of the Worlds or kind of like a big battle as such. It's more like, unraveling in this mystery and motives. But yeah, kind of a comedy sci-fi premise almost. So it's intriguing.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
horror, but without
Yeah,
being
it's
horror.
yeah. Actually, definitely the way the mechanisms of at the beginning it just shows it's quite efficient and chilling and amusing as well. How they
Yeah, it's like
spread.
chilling, but you cannot buy when they say that they truly believe that it's the best for everyone.
they, yeah, this collective cult, alien cult. All right then. Now that brings us to the final title of this episode. Thanks to our usual hosts, Franco, Richard, James, and Andrew. Until next time, see you then. Bye bye.
We hope you enjoyed this film and TVreview.com episode. Catch the latest film and TV reviews, together with regular episode content from the world of film and TV every week. See you soon. Would you like to reach our film and TV review podcast audience? Do you have a product or service of interest to film and TV home consumers or followers of the entertainment industry? Have a film or show production to publicize? For affordable price plans for all budgets, get in touch and find out about our introductory advertising options. Reach our audience of film and TV viewers and visit our site contact page at filmandtvreview.com, or you can email us at business@filmandtvreview.com. Reach out today.